Shall we? Chaloma, what we are discussing? Tell me, what was the concept we completed in our previous session, ma? I think we completed the discussion relating to allowances, ma. Total 4 parts of allowances we considered, if you remember. Part 1 allowance, Part 2 allowance, Part 3 allowance, Part 4 allowance. Part 1 allowance depends upon exemption is available, partly taxable, partly exempt. Whereas the exemption is available to the extent amount spent for official purpose. When it comes to Part 2 allowance, ma, that is also partly taxable and partly exempt. Whereas the exemption is available to the extent amount specified by income tax department. Whereas Part 3 allowance, ma, fully taxable. Part 4 allowance fully exempt. Under Part 1 we are having 6 allowances. Part 2 we are having around 13 allowances. Part 3 also we are having 13 allowances. Part 4 we are having 4 allowances. Understood? We discussed in detail. Okay then. So let's start with perquisites, ma, very important discussion we are going through. So concentrate. Perquisites. Let's start with our next discussion. Perquisites. What do you mean by perquisite? Tell me. What do you mean by perquisite? It is a benefit provided by the employer to the employee in addition to the salary. Come again. A benefit provided by the employer to the employee in addition to the salary shall be treated as perquisite. Now my question is there any difference between allowances and perquisites, ma? Yes, allowances are different, perquisites are different. Both are not one and the same. There is a difference between allowances and perquisites. The tax treatment is different and the definitions also different, ma. What is the definition of the allowance? A fixed amount paid by the employer to the employee in addition to the salary for a specific purpose shall be treated as allowance. Whereas what is the definition for perquisite, ma? A benefit provided by the employer to the employee in addition to the salary will be regarded as perquisite. So allowances and perquisites both are not one and the same, both are different, and the tax treatment also different. So let's verify what is the difference between allowances and perquisites. Mainly there are three differences, ma. Mainly there are three differences between allowances and perquisites. Let's verify one by one. The first difference is allowances are always in monetary terms. What is that, ma? Allowances are always in monetary terms. When it comes to perquisites, ma, perquisites may be in monetary terms as well as non-monetary terms, ma. That is the first difference. So what is the first difference? Allowances are always in monetary terms. If you remember, what is the starting line of the definition for allowance, ma? A fixed amount. What is the starting line? A fixed amount. Amount means monetary terms. You verify children education allowance. Money will be paid by the employer to the employee. Medical allowance. Money will be paid by the employer to the employee, a fixed amount. City compensatory allowance. It will be paid in money. And dearness allowance will be paid in money. Travel or transfer allowance will be paid in money. So always it is what? A fixed amount paid by the employer towards a specific purpose in addition to the salary. There is no question of having non-monetary allowance, ma. Always allowances are always in monetary terms only. When it comes to perquisite, the lawmaker says the perquisite may be in monetary terms as well as non-monetary terms. That means there are two possible perquisites here. First one is monetary perquisite, second one is non-monetary perquisite. when we need to treat a particular perquisite as monetary perquisite and when we need to regard it as non-monetary perquisite, I will discuss little bit later. For the time being, please try to understand the perquisites are having two types. First one is monetary perquisite, second one is non-monetary perquisite. But when it comes to allowances, always in monetary terms, there is no question of having non-monetary allowance. First difference. Second difference, allowance is a fixed amount paid by the employer to the employee irrespective of actual expenditure incurred by the employee. Tell me here, allowance is with respect to actual expenditure incurred by the employee or irrespective of actual expenditure? Irrespective of actual expenditure. That means the employer will not consider, while giving the allowance to the employer will not consider what is the actual expenditure. Irrespective of the fact, he will give the fixed amount. He will pay the fixed amount. Then it is up to the employee whether to incur less than that or more than that, or total he has to incur. It is up to the employee. We verified one best example for what is that this case, travel or transfer allowance. What is the fixed amount paid by the employer? 30,000. In the first case, what is the actual expenditure incurred by the employee? 7,000. Remaining 23,000, whether he has to give return to the employer, he can keep is in his pocket. He can keep in his pocket. No need to return back to the employer. And the second case, the actual allowance received is 30,000. Whereas the expenditure incurred by the employee out of his pocket is 60,000. That means extra 30,000 expenditure incurred. If he asked, the employee asked, sir, my actual expenditure is 60,000, whereas you paid only 30,000. Please give me balance 30,000. He asked, whether the employer will pay? No, because allowance is a fixed amount paid by the employer to the employee irrespective of actual expenditure incurred by the employee. If you incurred 7,000, no need to return 23,000 to the employer. If you incurred 60,000, employer again he will not reimburse excess of 30,000 expenditure. Are you following? Because it is a fixed amount paid by the employer to the employee irrespective of actual expenditure incurred by the employee. Employer paid by the employer irrespective of actual expenditure incurred by the employee. Whether you incur less expenditure or more expenditure, employer don't consider that. He will pay a fixed amount. That is the second difference of the, what is that, between allowance and perquisite. What about perquisite, Perquisites will be, a benefit will be provided by the employer to the employee, That means here the benefit is directly related to the actual expenditure incurred by the employee. Simply say, under perquisites, it will be directly related to the actual expenditure incurred by the employee. See, perquisites are directly related to the actual expenditure incurred by the employee. That means you incurred 10,000 expenditure for a particular purpose, then how much the employer will pay or reimburse? 10,000 only or less than that, depending upon agreement between you and the employer. That means here this will be, the perquisite will be directly related to the actual expenditure incurred by the employee. That means simply say the employer will consider what is the actual expenditure incurred by the employee. Accordingly, he will give the perquisite. Understood, So what is the second difference? Allowance is a fixed amount paid by the employer to the employee irrespective of actual expenditure incurred by the employee. When it comes to perquisite, perquisite is directly related to the actual expenditure incurred by the employee. Next one, third difference regarding chargeability. Third difference is regarding chargeability. What is the chargeability for allowance, Certain cases it is exempt, certain cases it is taxable. That means allowances are taxable in the hands of all employees, if it is chargeability case. If that allowance is eligible for exemption, in the hands of what is that, appropriate employees, it will be eligible for exemption. When it comes to perquisite, for the purpose of charging perquisites to tax, that employees has been categorized into specified employees and non-specified employees. Ma. Come again. For the purpose of charging perquisites to tax, the employees has been bifurcated into specified employees and non-specified employees. But for the purpose of charging allowances to tax, there is no such bifurcation. Allowances are taxable in the hands of all the employees. Ma. There is no bifurcation. Chargeable to tax in the hands of all the employees means whenever it is chargeable to tax, it will be taxable. In case that particular allowance is eligible for exemption, then in the hands of appropriate employee hands, it will be eligible for exemption. Understood the point? So allowances are taxable in the hands of all employees. When it comes to perquisites, for the purpose of charging perquisites to tax, employees has been categorized into specified employees and non-specified employees. Tell me, whether we verified any category of employees like specified and non-specified while deciding the chargeability under allowances? No. Depending upon the partly exempt or fully taxable, fully exempt, but there is no bifurcation of employees. But when it comes to perquisites, for the purpose of chargeability of perquisites, employees has been bifurcated into specified employees and non-specified employees. Why we have bifurcated, I will explain little bit later. For the time being, try to remember, for the purpose of chargeability of perquisites, employees has been bifurcated into specified as well as non-specified. These are the three differences between allowances and perquisites. May be possible for theoretical question in the examination. Could you please tell me what are the three differences between allowances and perquisites? First difference, allowances are always in monetary terms, whereas perquisites may be in monetary terms as well as non-monetary terms. Second difference, allowance is a fixed amount paid by the employer to the employee irrespective of actual expenditure incurred by the employee. When it comes to perquisite, perquisite is directly related to the actual expenditure incurred by the employee. Good. Third difference, what is the third difference? Please tell me. Allowances are taxable in the hands of all the employees. Perquisites, whereas perquisites, for the purpose of charging the perquisites to tax, employees has been bifurcated into specified employees as well as non-specified employees. Good. Now I will explain what is monetary perquisite and what is non-monetary perquisite with the help of three examples. Now I am going to explain what is monetary perquisite and what is non-monetary perquisite with the help of three examples, because for the purpose of deciding the chargeability in the hands of specified as well as non-specified employees, first of all you need to find it out whether that particular perquisite is monetary or non-monetary. Let us verify that point first of all. Chalo. Subsequently we will verify the chargeability. In whose hands monetary perquisites will be taxable, in whose hands non-monetary perquisite will be taxable, we'll be discussing later. But now for the timing, let us verify what is monetary perquisite and what is non-monetary perquisite. Let's verify. I will explain with the help of example. Pay attention. Mr. X is there and he is working as CFO. Mr. X is working as CFO, Chief Executive Officer in A Limited. Okay. Now Mr. X appointed a security guard at his home. He appointed security guard at his home. Now my question is, who appointed that security guard? Mr. X. If at all Mr. X appointed that security guard, it is whose responsibility to pay salary to the security guard? Only by the person who appointed that security guard. That means Mr. X appointed the security guard, hence he is liable to pay the salary to the security guard. So what is the salary fixed by Mr. X? 10,000, and it is the responsibility of the Mr. X to pay salary of 10,000 per month to the security guard, because he only appointed such a security guard. But what happened? A Limited paid 10,000 rupees to that security guard. That means that security guard is appointed by the employee, whereas that salary expenditure is paid by the employer. Here it is paid by the employer. Salary is paid by the employer to the security guard. My question, if at all the 10,000 salary paid by the employer to the security guard of employee, please tell me whether it is monetary perquisite or non-monetary perquisite. Monetary perquisite, because money is coming from the employer to the employee security guard, hence it will be regarded as monetary perquisite. Understood ma? This is the first example for monetary perquisite. Second one, same facts ma. Mr. X working as CFO this time, Chief Financial Officer in A Limited, and he appointed security guard and salary fixed at 10,000 per month. How much my salary fixed? 10,000 per month, and that salary fixed by Mr. X and payment also made by Mr. X only. Appointed by Mr. X, salary fixed by Mr. X, and he is liable to pay the salary, and he only paid how much? 10,000 rupees to the security guard. Now this 10,000 rupees payment is reimbursed by the employer to the employee ma. In the above case, earlier case, direct payment is made by the employer to the security guard. Here, direct payment is not made, but the payment is made by the employee, that is Mr. X. Now that expenditure has been reimbursed by the employer to Mr. X ma. That means money has been given to the Mr. X towards the security guard facility. My question, whether it is monetary perquisite or non-monetary perquisite, money is coming from the employer to the employee ma. Towards security guard salary payment, money is coming means it is what? Monetary perquisite. Very good. So simply say, when we need to treat it as monetary perquisite ma, paid by the employer, monetary perquisite. Reimbursed by the employer, monetary perquisite. These are the two cases where you need to give the status of monetary perquisite to that benefit ma. Understood? Good. Next, third example ma. Let's verify. Third example, Mr. X working as CFO in A Limited. Okay, now employer appointed the security guard. In the above two cases, who appointed the security guard? Employee. But here, who appointed the security guard ma? Employer. That means employer appointed the security guard means who is liable to pay salary to the security guard ma? Employer only. So employer appointed the security guard, he paid the salary to the security guard, the employer, and this facility has been provided to the employee at the house of the employee. Let's verify. Salary fixed at 10,000 and paid by the employer, and this facility provided at the house of the employee, that is Mr. X. Tell me, here money is giving by the employer to the employee na, or facility has been provided ma? Facility has been provided. Here there is no discussion about fixed amount or monetary terms. That means there is no discussion about monetary terms. Facility has been provided by the employer to the employee. Please tell me whether we need to treat it as monetary perquisite or non-monetary perquisite ma? Non-monetary perquisite, because there is no payment involved here, there is no reimbursement involved here, but facility has been provided by the employer to the employee, hence we need to treat it as non-monetary perquisite. Understood the point here? Yes. Now please tell me, when we have to treat it as monetary perquisite, when we have to treat it as non-monetary perquisite. Paid or reimbursed by the employer, treat it as monetary perquisite. Facility provided by the employer to the employee, you need to consider it as non-monetary perquisite. Very good. See, I think perquisites are not there in your material. You need to copy. After completion of my discussion, before going to next PPT, you need to, what is that? You need to pass and you need to copy. Chalo. Next ma. Let's verify. Monetary perquisite, non-monetary perquisite. What is monetary perquisite ma? Paid or reimbursed by the employer. What is non-monetary perquisite? Facility provided by the employer to the employee. Very good. Now what is the treatment for monetary perquisite? We verified for the purpose of chargeability of perquisite, the employees has been bifurcated into specified employees as well as non-specified employees. Understood the point? So what is the chargeability for monetary perquisite? Monetary perquisites are taxable in the hands of all the employees, that is specified employees as well as non-specified employees. When it comes to non-monetary perquisite, it will be taxable only in the hands of specified employees. That means not taxable in the hands of non-specified employees. So please tell me the chargeability. Taxable in the hands of all employees. What is that? Monetary perquisite. What about non-monetary perquisite? Taxable in the hands of specified employees only. That means not taxable in the hands of non-specified employees. That is the reason why we need to bifurcate that employees into specified and non-specified for the purpose of deciding the chargeability. Understood the point? Okay. Now please tell me now what we need to discuss. We discussed what is monetary perquisite and what is non-monetary perquisite. Next we discussed what is the treatment for monetary perquisite and what is the treatment for non-monetary perquisite. Now what we need to discuss, please tell me. Very good. Yes. Now we need to discuss who is specified employee and who is non-specified employee, because then only we can decide whether that monetary perquisite or non-monetary perquisite taxable or not. Because in the hands of specified employees, when it comes to monetary perquisite, let's verify from the viewpoint of perquisite, from the type of perquisite. When it comes to monetary perquisite, it will be taxable in the hands of all the employees, that is specified as well as non-specified. But when it comes to non-monetary perquisite, it will be taxable only in the hands of specified employees and not taxable in the hands of non-specified employees. Therefore, for the purpose of deciding the chargeability for non-monetary perquisite, we need to verify whether that particular employee is specified employee or non-specified employee. Hence, now we need to verify who is specified employee and who is non-specified employee. Let's verify. Before getting into that specified and non-specified discussion, let's verify another two types of perquisites. Again, there is a possibility for having two types of perquisites. First one is free of cost perquisite. Second one is concessional perquisite. Come again. First one is free of cost perquisite. Second one is concessional perquisite. What is free of cost perquisite? Facility provided by the employer to the employee, that is benefit provided by the employer to the employee without charging anything. That means he is not collecting anything from the employer. In such a case, it will be treated as free of cost perquisite. When we need to treat it as concessional perquisite, in case that facility provided by the employer to the employee by charging the lesser amount than the required one. Come again. By charging lesser amount than the required one, then it will be treated as concessional perquisite. What do you mean by that thing? Say for example, required perquisite to be charged is 10,000 per month, but employer is charging 2,000 per month from the employee. That means 10,000 is required to be charged, but actually charged is 2,000 per month. That means is charging lesser than the required one. Then this will be treated as concessional perquisite. First case, free of cost perquisite. What do you mean by free of cost perquisite? 10,000 is required to be charged by the employer from the employee, but he is charging 0 rupees. He is charging 0 rupees. In such a case, could you please tell me whether it is concessional or free of cost? Free of cost, because he is not charging anything. Let's verify. Free of cost and concessional. When we can call it as free of cost, facility provided by the employer to the employee at free of cost, that is without charging anything, will be regarded as free of cost perquisite. What about concessional perquisite? Facility provided by the employer to the employee by charging lesser than the required amount will be regarded as a concessional perquisite. Understood? Tell me, in case of free of cost perquisite, what is taxable? 10,000 to be required to be charged, 0 charged by the employer. That means what is taxable? Pura 10,000 taxable in case of free of cost. When it comes to concessional, 10,000 required to be charged, but charged only 2,000. Then what is the benefit to the employee? 8,000. That 8,000 shall be taxable in case of concessional perquisite. Understood? For that we need to verify whether it is free of cost or concessional perquisite. Next ma, let's verify who are the specified employees and who are the non-specified employees. First of all, let us define who are the non-specified employees. Then we can go for definition regarding specified employees. So who are the non-specified employees ma? An employee other than specified employee will be regarded as non-specified employee. Very simple definition, negative definition given by the lawmakers ma. Tell me whether positive definition given or negative definition, because it is negative definition ma, because what they are specifying, an employee other than specified employee will simply treated as non-specified employee. That means now we need to define who is the specified employee. Tell me what if for specified employee also given negative definition. That means for specified employee also the employee other than non-specified employee will be treated as specified employee, like this negative definition is given for specified employee also, then there will be no meaning at all. For one definition you given negative definition means for next term you need to define in positive with positive definition ma, otherwise there will be no meaning at all. So they give a negative definition for non-specified employees, that means they shall give positive definition for specified employees they provided. Let's verify. Specified employees, an employee who is covered under any of the following three situations shall be treated as specified employee. Total how many situations we need to verify? 3 situations ma. Out of those 3 situations, in all the 3 situations he should be covered, any one of them, any one of them, not all of the 3. That means out of 3 situations, if the employee covered under any one situation, simply he will be treated as specified employee. Then in his hands that non-monetary perquisite will be chargeable to tax. So let's verify what are the 3 situations one by one. First situation ma, the employee should hold substantial interest in the entity in which he is working at any time during the current previous year. Tell me what that first situation saying. The employee should hold substantial interest ma. What is that? Substantial interest where? In the entity in which he is working. At what time he has to hold the substantial interest ma? At any time during the previous year, current previous year in which you wants to decide the category of the employee. So what do you mean by that statement? Let's verify. First of all, I will explain about substantial interest ma. Then I will go for technical term at any time. What do you mean by substantial interest? If it is happen to be corporate entity, what is that ma? If it is happen to be corporate entity, that is companies, incorporated entities, what do you mean by substantial interest? Means greater than or equal to 20% of voting power must be held by the employee. Then only we can say the employee is holding substantial interest in the company. What is the percentage ma? Minimum 20%. What do you mean by minimum? Greater than or equal to 20% of voting power. What do you mean by voting power? That means the investment should be in the equity share capital, then only you will get the voting power. Understood? So more than or equal to 20% of equity shares held by the employee means he will be having substantial interest in the entity, then he will be treated as specified employee in that entity for that previous year. Understood the point here? Good. In case of non-corporate entity, what do you mean by non-corporate entity? That may be partnership firm or AOP or BOI. That means simply other than company. Other than what ma? Company. Then when we can call that person, that employee is having substantial interest means minimum 20% of share of profit. What do you mean by share? Greater than or equal to 20% of share of profit held by the employee in that entity in the current previous year. Then we can call that employee is a specified employee. Tell me how to verify the substantial interest ma? In case of corporate entity, minimum 20% of voting power. Non-corporate ma? Minimum 20% of share of profit. Now, At what time it should hold by the employee ma? At any time during the previous year. What do you mean by at any time? Whether the lawmaker specified throughout the previous year ma, or at any time? At any time. That means even one day it is held by the employee. Just one day, minimum 20% of voting power or minimum 20% of share of profit held by the employee only for one day out of 365 days. That is enough to treat that employee as a specified employee ma. That means out of 365 days, is there any relevance to hold the substantial interest throughout 365 days ma? No. At any time means even one day held by the employee, he will be treated as a specified employee in that entity for that previous year. Understood the importance of the term at any time? Good. Substantial interest in case of corporate entity and in case of non-corporate entity. If it is happen to be corporate entity, the employee should hold minimum 20% of voting power. That means investment should be in the equity share capital. In case of non-corporate entity, the employee should hold minimum 20% of share of profit. Okay ma. Now the 20% of voting power or 20% of share of profit we are discussing, that should be beneficial ownership or legal ownership ma? Whether we need to consider beneficial ownership or legal ownership, the minimum 20% of voting power or 20% of share of profit we are verifying, that should be beneficial ownership or legal ownership. What we need to consider, I will explain. First of all, what is beneficial ownership or what is legal ownership, then you decide what we need to consider for the purpose of 20% of voting power or 20% of share of profit. There is HUF ma. Assume there is HUF. Now HUF wants to invest in a company. Assume HUF wants to invest in a company. Now what happened? 30% of equity shares purchased by the HUF out of HUF funds ma. 30% of equity shares purchased by the HUF out of HUF funds. But the shares are registered in the name of the Karta. Tell me, whose funds has been invested in the company? HUF funds. But those shares are registered in the name of the HUF or registered in the name of the Karta? Registered in the name of the Karta. But that investment is made out of HUF funds. Now dividend received from that company ma, dividend received from that company, who will enjoy that benefit from dividends from company ma? Obviously those benefits will be enjoyed by the HUF only, because HUF invested out of HUF funds. That means the benefit from dividend will enjoy by HUF. Then what about Karta ma? He is just holding the legal ownership, but benefit is going to the HUF. That means we can say that Karta is holding legal ownership, whereas HUF is holding beneficial ownership. Now we need to verify whose interest we need to consider for the purpose of deciding the specified employee or non-specified employee. Say for example, Karta is employee of that organization ma. Are you following? Karta is employee of that organization. He is holding legal ownership of 30% of voting power, whereas beneficial ownership is held by HUF 30%. Now Karta is employee of that company. Now tell me whether we need to treat this Karta as specified employee for that organization ma? For that we need to verify whether beneficial ownership is relevant or legal ownership is relevant for the purpose of deciding the, what is that, 20% of voting power or 20% of share of profit. The lawmaker says we don't care regarding legal ownership, we care regarding beneficial ownership. That means the 20% of voting power or 20% of share of profit, the person who is getting the final benefit will be considered. The legal ownership is having no relevance, the beneficial ownership is having relevance. That means Karta is holding legal ownership having no relevance. That means Karta shall not be treated as a specified employee for that organization, because the relevance has been given to the beneficial ownership. Hence he will be, the HUF will be treated as a beneficial owner, and it is not doing any employment, it will not be treated as a specified employee. Are you following? What if the situation is reverse, ma? Situation is reverse. That means Karta own funds, from Karta own funds invested into the company, 30% voting power invested into the company out of Karta's own funds, but the beneficial ownership is uh, nah. So Karta's, from Karta's own funds invested into the company, 30% of voting power, 30% of equity sharing, equity share capital. Now, but the legal ownership is registered in the name of the HF. Assume legal ownership is registered in the name of the HF, and it is invested out of Karta's own funds, and benefit is the dividend benefit is received by Karta only, but legal ownership is held by whom? HUF, ma. Now tell me, if Karta is employee of that organization, can we treat that Karta as specified employee? Yes, obviously, because what we need to verify? Beneficial ownership, not legal ownership. Here legal ownership is held by HEF, but beneficial ownership is held by Karta. That is relevant. And what is the percentage? 30%, means minimum 20% criteria is satisfied. Hence, this Karta is employee of that organization, means he will be treated as specified employee. So one line summary, ma. While deciding 20% of voting power or 20% of share of profit, whether we need to consider beneficial ownership or legal ownership, we need to consider beneficial ownership. There is no relevance to the legal ownership. Let's verify. In order to determine whether a person has a substantial interest in a company, it is the beneficial ownership of equity share carrying 20% or more of the voting power that is relevant than the legal ownership. Good. Example A. Karta of HUF is registered shareholder of Bright Limited. The amount for purchasing the shares is financed by HUF. The dividend is also received by HUF. Supposing further that A is an employee in Bright Limited, the question arises whether he is a specified employee. In this case, he cannot be called a specified person since he has no beneficial interest in the shares registered in his name. It is only for the purpose of satisfying the statutory requirements that the shares are registered in the name of A. All the benefits arising from the shareholding goes to HUF. Conversely, it may be noted that an employee who is not a registered shareholder will be considered a specified employee if he has a beneficial interest in 20% or more of the equity shares in the company. I explained with second example, right? This is regarding second example, ma. So what is relevant here? Beneficial ownership than the legal ownership. That's I want to communicate. Chalo. Next, ma. Situation 2. What is situation 2? The employee should hold directorship in the company in which he is working at any time during the current previous year. That means out of 365 days, any one day, at least one day, any one day he is holding the directorship, means he will be treated as specified employee. So to treat that person as specified employee, no need to hold the directorship for throughout the year, that is 365 days. It is enough to hold it at least one day to give the status of specified employee, ma. Next, ma. Situation 3. The aggregate salary received by the employee from all the employers during the previous year has been exceeded 50,000 per annum. Verify, I will explain. Chalo. What is situation 3 ma? The aggregate salary received by the employee from all the employers during the previous year exceeded rupees 50,000 per annum. In such a case, he will be treated as specified employee ma. Could you please explain me what is the importance of situation 3? Tell me, under situation 3 what we need to verify? We need to verify aggregate salary received by the employee from all the employers ma. How much? Exceeding 50,000 per annum ma, not per month, per annum. Tell me, is it possible for any employee to draw salary less than 50,000 throughout the year ma? Obviously no. Every person having minimum of more than 50,000 per annum. That means what is the intention of the lawmaker here? The employees who are not covered under case 1 and case 2 will be surely covered under case 3. That means all employees will surely treated as specified employees and they will charge non-monetary perquisite in the hands of that employee ma. So to give the status of specified employee to all the employees, the lawmakers with their intelligence created the, what is that, situation 3. Because for every employee it is common to have more than 50,000 salary per annum ma. That means who are not covered under part 1, part 2 will be damn surely covered under situation 3. Then he will be treated as specified employee. That non-monetary perquisite will be chargeable to tax. Good. Let's verify. Mr. X working in A limited ma, B limited, C limited. Total in 3 companies is working. How many? In 3 companies he is working, A, B, C. Now let's verify what is the salary. From A limited he is drawing 15,000 per annum, assume. From B limited 20,000 per annum. From C limited 10,000 per annum. Now please tell me whether he is a specified employee or not a specified employee. Please tell me ma. For that you need to aggregate the salary. 15,000 plus 20,000 plus 10,000. How much ma? 45,000. That means not exceeding 50,000. In such a case, he shall not be treated as specified employee in A limited, B limited as well as C limited, because first situation, substantial interest not covered. Second situation, directorship not covered. Third situation, aggregate salary exceeding 50,000 not covered. Hence he shall not be treated as specified employee. Next case ma, aggregate salary does not exceed rupees 50,000, hence not a specified employee. Good. Next ma, what if he is a director in A limited ma? What if he is a director in A limited? That means he covered under situation 2. He covered under situation 2. Therefore, he will be treated as specified employee in A limited only. That is the important point. Since he is a director in A limited, hence he will be treated as specified employee in A limited only. But for B limited, C limited, he will be having the status of non-specified employee only. Understood? That means from A limited, any non-monetary perquisite received chargeable to tax in the hands of Mr. X. From B limited, C limited, any non-monetary perquisite received not chargeable to tax, because in B limited, C limited he is having the status of non-specified employee, but in A limited he is having the status of specified employee because he is holding the directorship in A limited. Good. He is a specified employee in A limited only. That is important point. Next ma, next, having 25% of voting power in B limited. What is the next case? Having 25% of voting power in B limited. Now tell me, in which company he is a specified employee? B limited only. But for A limited, C limited, he will be treated as non-specified employee. He is a specified employee in B limited and B limited only. Next ma, what if his salary from C limited is not 10,000, it is 20,000? Third example, his salary from C limited is not 10, 20. Then verify first case, substantial interest not holding, directorship not holding. Now let's verify situation 3, aggregate salary. compute aggregate salary mein what is total aggregate salary? 15,000 plus 20,000 plus 20,000. How much? 55,000. 55,000 means aggregate salary from all the employers received during the year exceeded 50,000. Therefore, he will be treated as specified employee for all the three companies. This is important because we are verifying aggregate salary from all the employers. If it is exceeded 50,000, he will be treated as specified employee for all the employers. Understood the point? He is specified employee for all the companies since the aggregate salary has been exceeded 50,000. From this entire discussion, please tell me what is your observation, ma? From this entire discussion, please tell me your observation. For the purpose of situation 1 and situation 2, that is substantial interest and directorship, he will be treated as specified employee only in those companies in which he is holding substantial interest and directorship or directorship. But when it comes to situation 3, aggregate salary, he will be treated as specified employee for all the companies because we are considering salary from all the companies. Hence, for all the companies, he will be treated as specified employee if that aggregate salary received is exceeding 50,000 from all the employers. Understood the point? Yes. Now, we are saying aggregate salary, aggregate salary. That salary should have some definition, right? That salary should have some definition. So let's verify what is the salary definition for the purpose of situation 3 to decide the aggregate salary of 50,000 exceeding or not exceeding, to consider, to verify whether that employee is specified or non-specified. Let's verify the salary definition. My important salary definition for determining salary of employee to decide whether he is a specified employee or non-specified employee. Particulars amount column. Basic salary. DNS allowance, NEDA. What do you mean by NEDA, ma? Please tell me. What do you mean by NEDA? That means DA without specification or DA with specification. All cases NEDA received shall be considered. Bonus, ma, we need to consider. Commission, any commission means a fixed commission. Consider. Fluctuating commission, that is percentage of turnover. Consider. Then TV of monetary benefits. What do you mean by TV of monetary benefits, ma? TV of allowances plus TV of monetary perquisites. That is what do you mean by TV of monetary benefits? Tell me what do you mean by TV of monetary benefits? TV of allowances plus TV of monetary perquisites. Put together, we need to treat it as TV of monetary benefits. Then you will get gross salary less deductions under section 16. Class 1 is standard deduction up to 50,000. Class 2 entertainment allowance. Class 3 professional tax paid. Then you will get salary, and this must be considered from all the employers, and if it is exceeding 50,000, he will be treated as a specified employee for all the companies from which we verified the salary. Understood the point, ma? So some lengthy, ma. Here the salary definition is little bit lengthy, but I will tell you one analysis regarding the salary definition, then you will remember very easily. If you observe my analysis regarding this salary definition, you will remember very easily without mug up. Pay attention. What is the analysis? If you observe, ma, out of 13 items, how many items we considered here? In that pro forma, we are having pro forma for computation of income from salary, right? There 13 items minus 3 deductions. 3 deductions considered as it is. But out of 13 items, how many items considered? Simple. First 6 items considered, ma. First 6 items means basic salary, DNS allowance, bonus, commission, HRA, allowance, perquisites. First 6 items considered. Remaining 6 or 7, ma? 7 items. First 7 items considered, ma. Remaining 6 items not considered because remaining 6 items are retirement benefits. Here we are deciding salary of the employee to determine whether that employee is specified or non-specified, to decide the chargeability of non-monetary perquisite. When we will receive non-monetary perquisite? During the time of employment. Since we are verifying the status during the time of employment, hence we should not consider retirement benefits. That's why we removed 6 retirement benefits, ma. That's why we have not considered 6 retirement benefits, because we are discussing regarding during the time of employment benefit discussion. Hence retirement benefits shall not be considered. shall not be considered. First important point. Second important point, out of these 7 items, basic salary considered, DA, any DA considered, bonus considered, commission, any commission means fluctuating, fixed commission, both are considered, and TV of HRA, TV of allowances covered under TV of allowances, good. But under perquisites or benefits, what we considered here, TV of monetary perquisites only. That means what is missing? TV of non-monetary perquisite. So what is the only one missing out of 7 items ma? TV of non-monetary perquisite. Because TV of monetary perquisite, TV of allowances put together, we are considering that will comes under HRA, allowance and perquisite. What is not to be considered in the salary definition means TV of non-monetary perquisite alone shall be excluded while giving the salary definition here. Please tell me why we are not considering TV of non-monetary perquisite ma? Because non-monetary perquisite will be taxable only in the hands of specified employees only. In the hands of non-specified employee, non-monetary perquisite is not taxable. Are you following? That means to decide whether that non-monetary perquisite taxable or not taxable, we need to verify that employee is specified or non-specified. For that only we are verifying salary definition ma. So here we are verifying salary definition to give the status of specified employee or non-specified employee. Then only we can decide the chargeability of non-monetary perquisite. Without giving the status of specified or non-specified, you cannot decide the chargeability for non-monetary perquisite. That means the decision regarding non-monetary perquisite relating to chargeability, yet to decide. Since yet to decide, we cannot charge to tax by including in the salary definition. That's why we are not including. But we are including monetary perquisite ma, because monetary perquisite will be taxable in the hands of all employees. That means for the purpose of charging monetary perquisite, there is no need to verify whether that employee is specified or non-specified, because it is taxable in the hands of all employees. That's why we considered in the salary definition. So non-monetary perquisite is not considered because that status of employees yet to decide. Based on that, we need to decide the chargeability of non-monetary perquisite. Hence, we need to exclude. So what is to be excluded while giving the salary definition for this ma? Only non-monetary perquisite. All remaining 7 items will be considered. Less 3 deductions. You will get salary. This must be verified from what? All the employers. If it is exceeding 50,000, he will be treated as specified employee, otherwise non-specified employee. Understood the point ma? So please tell me what is salary definition. Basic, DA, any DA, bonus, commission, any commission, then taxable value of monetary benefits. That means taxable value of allowances, taxable value of monetary perquisite. Then you will get gross salary, less deductions under section 16. Class 1A, standard deduction up to 50,000. Class 2, entertainment allowance. Class 3, professional tax paid. Then you will get salary. So this is the definition for deciding whether he is specified or non-specified for situation 3. Understood? Yes. So far we discussed only introduction part of the perquisites ma. This much discussion is only relating to introduction part. So next discussion relating to various perquisites and chargeability regarding various perquisites. So far we discussed only introduction part. Good. Next session I will explain various perquisites along with the chargeability for the same. Understood the point? Good. Next session we will start with the perquisites, various perquisites and chargeability of the same. Thank you. Good day.